and the disciple strive together for the acquisition of knowledge. May the knowledge and wisdom that you acquire be effective and illuminative. May there be no dissension or disharmony between us. Om, peace, peace, peace. So today, in continuation of this webinar, on the occasion of International Day of Yoga, which is the 21st of June, we have a nearly 20-day long webinar. And today we are very happy that Professor Anupam Basu has agreed to join us. He is presently the director of the National Institute of Technology, NIT, a very prestigious national institute in Durgapur in West Bengal. And he has been associated with us for a very long time. And his expertise is artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, affective computing, and so on. So this webinar, we christened it as fascinating aspects of the multi-faceted yoga. And we divide into 5 sections: yoga philosophy, yoga psychology, yogic science, yogic technology, and yoga for daily life. So now, the yogic science and technology, we requested Professor Basu to talk on a very challenging topic, which is the present day world is looking for that, and that is artificial intelligence and the debate whether artificial intelligence and human intelligence are comparable. Most of you may remember the famous debate between Roger Penrose and the opponents of the strong AI. Roger Penrose is an opponent, and his opponents are those who favor the artificial intelligence. There's a huge debate, and Roger Penrose wrote a book, The Emperor's New Mind. And later on, he wrote another book called The Shadows of the Mind, and his third book, The Road to Reality. They have created a lot of ripples. Roger Penrose won the Nobel Prize in Physics a couple of years ago. So there's hot debate going on. And many people feel that the human intelligence can be completely replaced by the artificial intelligence by and by, not immediately. Some people say human intelligence is always superior, but we do not exactly know. The famous tussle between Kasparov and the deep blue computer game, and the computer won, and human beings lost. So that has triggered on a lot of debate. This is a very, very interesting topic, and we can't think of a greater person to put it in a simple language for everybody's consumption than Professor Anupam Basu. So he is not only a very brilliant technology person and a scientist, and he is also very much interested in yoga and human emotions and so on. So we request Professor Basu to deliver his talk on the debate between artificial intelligence and human intelligence, and can the artificial intelligence deliver exactly like the human intelligence. So welcome, Professor Basu. You can now take charge of the floor.
Thank you, Shamiji. I think I'm audible. Please confirm whether I'm audible or not.
Yeah, you are absolutely audible.
Okay, okay. It's an honor for me to have been invited by RKM Vivekananda Research Institute, which is also very close to my heart, to deliver this talk. I do not know whether I'm the appropriate person because the answer to this is not known to me. But what I can do today, and I have planned to do today, is to introduce. I assume that a lot of people are watching it live on YouTube. So I pose some relevant questions, and I would encourage all of you and all of us, to seek the answer by ourselves. Instead of me being judgmental and making a statement, let us look at the different facets and try to seek the answer ourselves. And the answers may vary, and the debates will remain, and that will be the life of intellectual streaming. So that's why, let me just share the screen. Is the screen visible?
Sir, it's visible.
Okay. So this is the topic that was handed over to me. And as I said, that whether AI can, and as Shamiji correctly pointed out, some of the landmark debates, I'll also add one more debate to this. And the debates are there and debates are remaining. And those of you, I do not know among the audience how many students are there. If the students are there, I can refer to them some of the books, not textbooks of AI, but Into the Heart of the Mind by Rose. You can get hold of that book, and it will trace the complete history of how the thing evolved. And we'll touch upon some of the points here today, but the interested students are encouraged to read more on this. So whether it can deliver like a human being. Let's start with an example. What we see here is a robot arm. Now this robot arm has been trained to pick up something, and it has been designed to pick up with a particular force. Suppose there is an iron ball lying in front of this robot hand, and it is commanded by speech or whatever, it is commanded to pick up the ball. So it certainly applies a particular force on the ball, holds it, grips it, and raises it, right? But suppose now I put an egg in place of that ball, and I ask this robot arm to pick up the object. Now, if the robot arm applies the same force, same pressure on the egg that it had applied on the iron ball, obviously all of you can imagine that the egg will break. So it is not a very intelligent behavior, of course. Although it's a robot arm, I don't say that it is it's a very useful arm. Now suppose I put in a camera in front of with this robot arm, where it can identify, and there are some programs written where it can analyze and identify the image captured by the camera, and it can understand that whether it is an iron ball or an egg. And if it is an egg, then obviously it is breakable, fragile, unlike an iron ball, and therefore so much pressure has to be applied and it must be adjusted. As soon as I add this feature, immediately the system becomes intelligent. It is showing some intelligence. And what have I added to this? I have added a couple of things. First is the sensor that is sensing the object. Number two, there is some computation or processing where we are analyzing what the object is, and after the object is analyzed, we also infer how much pressure it has to be applied. Now, as a human being, we do this processing also, but very implicitly, it is so natural to us that, and with our neural structure in our brain, we do it very quickly, right? So we could make this robot. Can we say that we have made this robot behave like human beings? It is actually adjusting itself, but nevertheless, we had to pump in the computing part into it. So, and this continuation of the processing goes on. Now, let me just trace the history of artificial intelligence being generated. It was in 1956, summer of 1956, at the Dartmouth College in United States. Two people, I'm just moving the mouse on them, John Mccarthy, who was with Dartmouth College, and Marvin Minsky, who was with MIT, they decided that let us have a conference and seminar of the bright minds and see whether a machine can really work in an intelligent manner, trying to address the question that has been raised in today's talk. Can it really behave like human beings? So in that conference, several people participated. Of course, John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky were there. There was Claude Shannon. Those of you who are students of electronics and communication know of Shannon's theorem. A fantastic mathematician, and like many mathematicians, a philosopher as well. Ray Solomonoff, Herbert Simon, and one picture I'm missing here, and that is Herbert Simon and Alan Newell. Both of them were from Carnegie Institute of Technology, this picture. And I'll come to their contribution a moment later. And other people are also there. Now, in that conference, first the term artificial intelligence was enunciated. Before that, this term was not there. Okay? So that was how the artificial intelligence was founded, and it spread into three major institutes. At that time, Carnegie Mellon University was not there. It was Carnegie Institute of Technology at Pittsburgh, now MIT at Boston, and Dartmouth College. Now, there has been, Swamiji has talked about a debate. Now, there was also a famous debate between John McCarthy and Marvin Minsky. All of us know about logic, that we use logic, we know different types of logics, and we claim that we think logically. What Minsky asked is, I'm sorry, do we think logically? Now, there was a difference of opinion that came up. A group said, we don't think logically, we think in some way, and when we take a decision, then we validate that using logic. And the other group said, no, we are programmed in such a way that we think logically. So that was the division, and strong AI, weak AI, different terms started coming in. I just mentioned about Herbert Simon and Alan Newell. Now, Herbert Simon is a computer scientist, a philosopher, an economist, and a mathematician. I mean, genius, of course, it needs not to be mentioned. He won the Nobel Prize, although Nobel Prize is not there in computer science, Turing Award is there, but Herbert Simon won Nobel Prize in economics using his optimization methods and theories. Now, Herbert Simon and Alan Newell proposed a model, a general model of human thinking. They named it human problem solving or general problem solving. And they enunciated some rules that we are rational means we follow certain rules, and those rules are programmed in our mind, and we apply those rules one after another in a particular manner, and we arrive at the conclusion. There were different ramifications of those rules, which later on came as rule-based expert systems, there were many finer issues. I'm not going into that. So Herbert Simon and Alan Newell proposed a general problem-solving model. So the thing started, and debates and different activities started. Now, still today, if I ask you what is intelligence, then it is very difficult to answer this question in a very pinpointed manner. To me, it appears like the story of it was 6 men of Hindustan, to learning much inclined. They went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind. 6 wise men from Hindustan went to see an elephant, all of them were blind. So somebody touched the body of the elephant and said, oh, the elephant is very much like a wall. Somebody who touched the leg of the elephant, so he thought that it is very much like a pillar. Somebody who touched the trunk said it's very much like a snake. So all of them were right, but in totality, all of them were wrong. As we often talk about Brahma, and that do we know the whole? The same thing is for intelligence. So we make one very dangerous I'll say, notion of intelligence among the educated people is that some student who is very good in mathematics is intelligent. Now that may be a necessary condition. That may be, that may be true, that may be sufficient, but it's not necessary. Because somebody may be bad at mathematics, but he may have a lot of other features. I'm just mentioning some of them: music, photography, sports. But suppose somebody has got tremendous empathy. He can quickly understand how the other person is feeling when he's talking. Most of us lack this capability. Won't we call him intelligent? I don't want to drag this debate. I'm just posing. I planned to just pose questions to you today that you think, what is intelligence? Now, again, here we're showing that now AI was gradually becoming a technology, and when it becomes technology, we carefully move out of philosophy. Not that we are denying the philosophical aspect, but we carefully move out from there just to make the things work. So there are 4 questions that are coming up. I start with the quadrant 4, systems that act rationally. By rationally, what do I mean? By a set of rules. Now, the set of rules can also be different for different worlds of discourse, right? The set of rules that are true for in Indian custom, and the set of rules that are true in American custom or British custom may be different. The red color symbolizes for us Shubha, good thing, auspicious thing. But in many tribes, red color is casting aspersion. Of course, in many places, red means danger. So it varies. And also, if we just talk a little about that, the ethics or the rationality of a poor person and the rationality of a rich person may also vary. And in that boundary of that rational set of rules, a person works, satisfying those rules. In that case, we say that they are acting rationally. So the first question is, can systems act rationally? If a system acts rationally, then can we call it to be artificially intelligent? Next quadrant, I go to quadrant 2, systems that think rationally. Now here comes the issue. What do you mean by thinking rationally? To make the thing simple for the time being, I say that thinking rationally means from the point of view of a machine, whether it can compute or process the information rationally following the known set of rules. Next, I come to a little more abstract. Systems that act like humans. what do I mean by like humans? So if I have a human working in a particular input scenario and a machine working in the same input scenario, and system that is artificially intelligent should show the same behavior. In that case, we can say that this system is acting like humans. The question that has been posed to. Is it acting like humans? But now I move to quadrant 1, where we say AI systems should be those systems that think like humans. Till now, I was thinking rationally in quadrant 2. But here, I am saying thinking like humans. Now, the question is, do humans always think rationally? Don't we get angry? Don't we lose our reason? Don't we do something that we repent and we go and apologize? So we move out of our rational part, become emotive, affective, emotionally we work, intuitively we work, and can systems do that? Or can we say that if the systems that can think like humans and act like humans, then only we'll say that it is acting like human beings. I'll need time. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Okay, so here is a famous test that was proposed by Alan Turing. So the game was like this, that on one side, there was a machine and there was a human being. Some questions were being posed and the answer was coming either from the machine or from the human. And the person in this room had to identify, he's the judge, and he is judging whether the answer has been generated by a human being or a machine. All right? Now, both the human and the machine try to act like human beings. Rationally, but probably putting in some artificial nuances of human thinking, they are trying to enact the thing. And if this judge can say which is which, then the machine fails the Turing test. But if he cannot distinguish between which one is by the judge, by the machine, and which one is by the person, then the machine passes the Turing test. So that was a nice formalization of intelligence, intelligent machine, as was proposed by Turing. And there has been numerous variants of that. I'm not going into that. Now, Turing test on unsuspecting judges. Because suppose the judge was unsuspecting, then it was possible to temporarily fool humans who do not realize that they may be actually talking to a bot or robot. All right? So one of those examples was ELISA program. What it was doing, I'll just show you now. It pretended to be a psychotherapist, and ELISA and a human being are communicating. ELISA says, is something troubling you? I'm saying, life is meaningless. ELISA says, do you feel strongly about discussing such things? I'm saying, everyone is born, grows and dies. ELISA asks, who, for example? I say, you. You are not really talking about me, are you? Me. That's interesting. Please continue. So from here, we can get a feeling that it is actually understanding. I mean, Eliza is understanding my questions and answers and phrasing the answers like that. But no, it is purely rephrasing what we are actually doing. There are some standard responses. So when I say, what is the purpose of success and happiness? So that's a question. And Eliza just says, are such questions much on your mind? All right. Why should I study? Eliza has no answer. Just says, that's quite interesting. So it appears as if a person is talking, but no, it is also not very intelligent, but rather routine way of communicating. All right. So, but it may fool us. And it was by Weizenbaum, and it was very popular program, earlier AI program. Also, scientists, engineers thought that is Turing test the right goal? Is it what we want? For example, aeronautical engineers, do they want to make planes that will fly exactly like pigeons so that they can fool pigeons? Is that our objective? This question has been raised by Russell and Nordvik, who has got the famous AI textbook. No, we want to have an intelligent plane which will be smart enough to fly even in inclement weather. All right. But we don't want to mimic a pigeon. My purpose is not to fool the pigeon. So fooling somebody is not always intelligence. That's another view that's coming up. Now let's look at this, the Chinese room argument, and another famous AI scientist, Searle, mentioned this in 1980s. Let's see. There's a person here, as you can see, and he has got a rule book. Now he knows English. He doesn't know an iota of Chinese. All right. Now Chinese symbols are being floated to him. And that is the data. And this person has got English handbook, which tells what responses should be formed in response to which Chinese symbols. So for this, probably this symbol would be the answer. For this symbol would be the answer. So this person is purely like a table, copying the questions, mapping the questions to the answers. All right. So would we say that this person understands Chinese? Because somebody who is sitting outside here and will find that the answers are all correct, he will understand that this person is understanding Chinese, but that's not the case. All right. So it receives notes in Chinese, has systematic English rule book for how to write new Chinese characters, and returns his notes. The person, now if I meet up the analogy, the person is the CPU, a computer. The rule book is the AI program. And of course, we need a lot of papers because I have to take these, copy these, and write these. All those things are required. So that is a lot of storage. Memory is required. But what Searle says, this gentleman has no understanding of what they mean. Although the answers that are coming correct are not properly understood. Now, this example appears to be appealing to me when I sit to take interviews of people who has got number of publications, but when I go inside them and ask questions about them, they say, sir, I don't know the details. I just ran MATLAB and this result came out and it got published. It's also very similar. The person has got no understanding of the problem he solved. But the problem was given to him and coded it in MATLAB. MATLAB did the simulation and all the algebraic solutions, and he got the answer. And that's dangerously happening everywhere. Now, we must be very careful. Should we say that this person has understood? Is that understanding? Or if some machine does it, should we call it intelligent? Although it is showing an intelligent behavior, albeit apparent. So outside the room, person is getting perfect Chinese answers here. As Searle says that this room has got no intelligence. Now I move to the good old AI days, days when we used to work in AI initially as students. At that time, expert systems were built. Mycene was a famous expert system built at the Stanford University by E.H. Shortleaf. And Mycene was fed with a lot of rules, medical rules, that dealt with bacterial infection. In particular, bacterial infections it dealt with, and also a particular type of bacterial infection. Now, expert systems became very popular because we could write such rules and make the system work like a human expert, but for a very small and specialized domain. This Mycene will not be an expert in a non-bacterial fungal case, maybe. So, but commercially, these became very popular. Even Boeing company, which is now in doldrums, but not for expert system, they also used expert systems. DEC computers were laid out using expert systems, and a lot of expert systems were made. Early successes also included AI systems for image and scene recognition, elementary speech recognition and generation, and elementary language translation. Please note the elementary part, because language has got so many complications that we are still struggling with. So now I would like to give you an idea of how this good old AI used to work, or expert systems used to work. Here is a box where we'll feed in inputs or queries. The box should be intelligent, should be able to process and give us the output. How can we make it intelligent? So I have to put something into the box. What do I put in? I put in from the mind of the experts, I extract their knowledge and put them inside this box. And the box behaves in an intelligent manner. So this part is knowledge extraction or knowledge acquisition, and the system becomes ready for manifesting intelligent behavior. So there will be some rules, and also these systems were good enough. When they took a decision, we could ask the system, why did you take the decision? The system could explain that. There was transparency in that system. Okay. So that is how the expert systems were built. So here are some examples of rules from Mycene. Just need not bother too much about the details. I'm just showing you there are some conditions. If the identity of the organism is not known with certainty, and the stain of organism is gram-negative, the morphology of the organism is rod, the aerobicity of the organism is aerobic, then there is strongly suggestive evidence of weight 0.8 out of 1 that the class of the organism is enterobacterial. All right. So in that way, there are thousands of rules in this, from where using which here those rules were poured in, and using which the system could come to conclusions. And you can see that there was uncertainty also being handled in a very simple way, that there were some uncertainty factors put in. In this rule, there is suggestive evidence. Here it is definite conclusion that the therapy under consideration is not a potential therapy for use against the organism. So we could have a graded decision as well. So things were going on fine in the 80s. But then we hit the wall. We hit the wall because of two major reasons. One is the ambiguity. Highly funded translation programs, Russian to English, were started in US so that the Russian messages intercepted could be automatically translated. They were good at syntactic manipulation, but bad at disambiguation. And funny example is here. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Whatever that means. That means I'm willing to do a particular thing, but I'm feeling so weak, physically I'm not able to do. And that was the notion of the Russian, and it was translated, the vodka is good, but the meat is rotten. All right. So there were catastrophic translations because there's so much inherent ambiguity. Spirit can mean vodka, can mean my soul, can mean my mood, can mean so many things in the context. Okay. So the existing programs were facing problem in dealing with the ambiguity of natural language. The second problem that came was scalability. I have shown my sim with some rules, maybe 10,000 rules, maybe 1 million rules, but there will be still some holes, some things which are not captured in those rules, because our mind has got multiples of that as rules or knowledge stored in some way. So early examples were very small, and in order to scale it bigger, it was so difficult to extract or multiply those rules so that everybody can, so that all the problems could be solved. So it remained restricted to toy or semi-toy problems, but nevertheless, it gave us a big experimental platform to carry out our research. And the representations were limited. How do we represent knowledge? That I was showing here, that the knowledge is being extracted and it will be represented. How that will be done, that was a big limitation and people were thinking about it. Now, today, it has become a household word, machine learning. Now, this machine learning actually has scaled the things up. The scaling problem that I was talking about here has been, to some extent, met, to a large extent, met by machine learning. Although many things are still unanswered, I'll come to this. Now, what is there in machine learning means in our mind, we have got actually what do we have in our brain? We have got a number of neurons, okay, 1,000 billion neurons, cell bodies and axons, they are connected and are communicating. A model of that is, graphical model of that is this, that our neurons are connected, and these connections have got different strengths of connection, so that if any one of them is vibrated or excited, the excitation will propagate to other neurons, and in different ways depending on the weights. And that's how these weights we learn that when there's a red color, which links should vibrate more, so that ultimately I can distinguish it from red and not blue. If it is blue, which links should vibrate more or communicate more strongly, so that I can identify blue and not red. The input is coming from here. So that is the philosophy of the connectionist architecture or neural nets. That was an attempt to mimic our brain reasoning and brain structure, because we made a shift from the rule-based system type of thing, because people say knowledge is represented not as rules, but is represented through these millions and billions of connections that are there. All right. So now, this is a Bengali line from Tagore, Vishwajora Phat Petecho Kamone Dipa. In the meanwhile, what happened? In the meanwhile, World Wide Web came in. And all of us got connected, and all the information was ready to us. Right? So now we are in such a scenario, everything networked, all the things network, and clouds means we are connected to machines which are far away from us, and continuously all these activities are pouring in and generating data. Every day we have millions of email data, millions of Instagram data. Everything is coming up, and the curve goes like this. By 2020, we had 4.4 zettabytes initially. By 2020, from there we'll come to 44 zettabytes or 44 trillion gigabytes being generated every day. So we have got a huge database. Now think of the scenario that all the information is spread in front of you, and a student is asked that you learn yourself, everything is shown there, you find the pattern, that which scenario results in which action. Among this huge volume of data, the student will be lost, but a machine will not be lost. And that is the advantage that people took. And I come back to the same diagram, but this time in a different way. This machine will be made knowledgeable, rules will be learned, but not from the experts themselves, human experts, but we have got a huge volume of data kept here. And there is some program where this is a data analyst or who has written a program. That program is automatically learning this data from this huge database and pouring it into this machine. So among those huge data where I left the student to stand and he was lost, but a machine can very well analyze that data using different patterns, for example, regression, or now those of you in computer science may know of support vector machines. And there are different techniques. That is not my objective of the talk today. So from there, we find out, these programs find out patterns, and those patterns are fed. And so this became intelligent. But one thing is lost. If you have noted, earlier I had drawn it in a transparent manner, now I have colored it. Because when the decision was taken earlier, we could challenge it. Why did you take this decision? It could be answered. But now it cannot be answered. Because I have not programmed that. It has been programmed by another program, programmed by another program, which has built this up. There is a shift from human learning and this machine learning. Now people are talking of explainable AI, where the machine learning learned things can also be explained. So one probably difference I could highlight here, that whatever I say, rightly or wrongly, if you challenge me, I can explain. But a machine learned system as of today will not be able to do that. Next, I come to another point, is technology amoral? As time is short, I'm not going in detail over here. We often say technology is amoral, but the people who use it make differences. The difference between moral ethics and law will take another lecture. I don't want to go into that. But morals are one's, please note, personal beliefs about right and wrong. I have got my moral. You may agree, you may disagree, but that's what I am. Ethics is a standards or code that is expected in a community, in a group, that in a human society, in a multi-storied complex, all the residents must follow these ethics. And there are some things called law that is imposed, and we cannot violate that. That is set up by institutions. There's a penalty if we violate them. Okay? Now these morals and often the ethics make us human and machines. Can they become ethical? Let us see. A couple of questions. Does information technology, of which AI is a part, demand more ethical rigor from us? Can ethics be embedded in machines? Can machines write their own ethical guidelines? We'll come to that quickly. Ethics in an AI society. Now, some ethical violations are because of human beings. Human beings themselves use these machines to a bad end. For example, cyberbullying, cyber-assisted frauds, virus, malware, all these things, password breach. These are human beings are violating their ethics and using the machine to a bad end. There are also some common ethical pitfalls. Google camera is there, where whatever you are looking at, everything is being recorded by Google. Now, it is possible that whatever you are doing, your privacy can be directly infringed, or who owns the images that are being recorded by Google Glass. Or a psychologist may know my psychology trait, although I don't want to reveal that. So that is again another ethical violation that can happen. So you can say that there must be ethical standards to ensure that. I'm just keeping some of the things, but here, healthcare data is most vulnerable to data breaches. You know that even much higher than bank data breaches, okay, healthcare data breaching has been more. The 83 million records were exposed. Out of that, 8 million were in healthcare, barely 1 million were in banking industry. In healthcare, when our data goes out unknowingly, you go to a hospital, you get the medicines that are sold. You give your ID that is copied and your number is sold. And people can even buy mobile phone in an unscrupulous manner using your ID in your name, but somebody else is using. So that sort of data breaches are, of course, unethical practice. But can the technology be unethical? These were examples where human beings were using technology in an unethical manner. But can the technology be unethical? That all depends on who is inside the box. Who is inside the box? An algorithm, right? An algorithm means the way we multiply, say 25 by 5 is 125. I know these steps and I carry those out. Now, if I miss out one step, the result will be wrong. If some machine intentionally cuts out one step, then I'll get wrong answer. Okay? That is a wrong technology, mistake in technology, but still probably not unethical in that sense. It's an error, fault, and that is different from ethics. Okay? Let's see. I want to skip this. Here, so that was an error in algorithm. But often, when we program the machine, I have suppose written a bank loan granting algorithm. And I have written the program, or if you look at the machine learning scenario, I have fed data in such a way that whenever, say in US, whenever the machine finds that the person who is asking for loan is a Hispanic, he says, loan is not granted. Because the data that has been fed are for those Hispanic who failed the repayment. But not all Hispanics. But for all whites who have put in data where they have paid. So this machine has been biased to be unethical. Could I make it clear? Suppose when a poor man has come to State Bank of India to get some loan for repairing his house, and he will repay it. But if my system has learned that poor men don't repay, I've learned from the data that rule, data was biased, consequently my rule is biased, I'll not give the loan to that person. So if the rules are like this, if income is greater than such and such, if ethnicity is this, if urban resident this, then there is a chance that the system may become unethical. So what I said is Mr. Bias is walking in. We are gradually allowing some bias to come into the algorithms. So what we are doing in the machine learning, from data, we are learning a model and taking a decision. Now, if this data is biased or this algorithm is biased, then the model will be biased, and what we'll get is an unethical behavior. And a machine will do an unethical behavior, and probably it is very similar to an unethical and biased human. A bank loan granting manager, if he is biased, we can find that the machine is behaving like him. So in that sense, does AI make us similar to human beings? The question remains. So there has been many such cases. For the sake of time, I'm not going into that. For example, Pitfalls is an algorithm designed to predict when and where crimes will take place. Now, a simulation of Pitfalls was found that drug offenses in Oakland and California repeatedly sent officers to places where high proportion of people were from racial minorities. Although the true crime rate was not like that in that area. The reason, which was found by one of the Indian scientists, demonstrated that because of the software that learned the reports recorded by the police, not the actual crime rates. Only those who were recorded by the police were by the white people and against racial minorities. So they took decision on that. But the actual crime rate was entirely different. So such things can happen when we depend only on machines. So similarly, looking at you, white man, a facial recognition software used by law enforcement. Some person at MIT found that 3 of the latest gender recognition AIs programs from IBM, Microsoft, and Chinese company Mccarthy could correctly identify, note, a person's gender from a photograph 99% of the time, but only for white men. For dark-skinned women, accuracy dropped to 35%. Why? Because these machines were trained with the data that was skewed. Suppose now we take help of policy making using AI program, and we feed in the data of the urban people only, the educational patterns, income patterns, expenditure patterns, and we make policy decisions. Obviously, that will not be representative of the entire country, the entire people, because the rural people have been left out. So in that way, and often we do that. So I'm skipping some things. So here is another interesting case that a person was captured after Facebook complaint. A person posed in front of a bulldozer and he was arrested and put it up on Facebook, and Facebook complained, and it was the caption attacked them. And the man was questioned. Ultimately, it was found that the translation program in Arabic, good morning, he wrote it in Arabic. He didn't write attack them. In Arabic, good morning and attack them are very similar. And the Facebook's automatic translation software chose attack them. Ultimately, Facebook was quick to apologize and compensate. But such things also happen. Who is a nurse? If you give a search nurse, you will find most of the nurse pictures are women. But I know many fantastic male nurses in number of hospitals here. Okay? Bias. Again, bias. Who is a nurse? We'll find that same. Male nurse, if you give, then we'll find male nurses. Otherwise, women nurses. Intelligent person. Look at the distribution. Even Marie Curie is not there. All right? All male are intelligent. I can't find the lady here. So biased. Shy person, mostly ladies. I don't find a gentleman here. I think one is there. Yeah, one is there. But mostly ladies. So you see, how the bias is going on. So that is what I wanted to say. Now, more ethical challenge is, of course, robots, and jobs are going to robots. Are we going to, what are we going to do? Now, if we have robots, now robots, I can say they're personification of AI system, AI machine. Now, Asimov, when he first talked about robot in his science fiction, he said, he enunciated, just like Newton's 3 laws, he enunciated 3 laws. One was, first law was, a robot may not harm a human being, or through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. So a robot should not harm a human being and should protect a human being when a human being is being harmed. The second law is, a robot must obey the orders given by the human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first. So one person gives a command to robot that kill that man, robot should not do that, according to Asimov. Third law is, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. So it must protect itself, but if its existence is dangerous to human being, then the robot can destroy itself. That was so well thought about by Asimov. But the robots that are coming up now, they are good robots and bad robots. Good robots are the one which are doing some works which are dangerous for human beings, right? Hazardous job, going into the mines and working in inaccessible locations, doing accurate surgery. All these things are very good. But will a robot be a better traffic police? If a lady comes driving a car and says, there's a red light, I have to go to the hospital, I'm having chest pain, will the robot allow her? Or a human traffic police could have taken the decision. I'm not answering the question. Can we have a robot which will do that? So can it behave like a human being? Can it have the judgment? Now, this basis of our judgment was our moral, our ethics that are so human. By 2030, 800 million jobs will be lost to AI robots. As robots increase, rich becomes richer. And no income for many people, consequently, no income tax. Artificial mistakes can be there. I'm not going into the mistakes. So robots can have bias and be racist robots also. There can be ethical agents also. Particularly, I'd like to talk about ethical agents are machines or systems that will make decisions using moral and social norms, virtues, when they can think about ethics explicitly. Can we have that now? Still now, for example, if I talk about an ethical toaster, does it carry, all of you will laugh. What is an ethical toaster? If I say that if I put in bread here and put the switch on, it will toast the bread. But if I put some piece of paper there and press that, what will happen? The paper will get burnt. But if the system was very intelligent and it could judge that it is paper and not bread, not my job, it would have rejected. Because in that case, I have programmed it to behave intelligently. But ethics is a different thing. Suppose you are asked to destroy a particular valuable paper which is being given to you to destroy, to deprive somebody. You may not like to do that. You may hide it. Can a machine, a toaster, when it's given a paper to be destroyed, or a shredder for that matter, given a paper to be destroyed, decide, no, I should not destroy it. Let us pass it on. In that case, we can say, when we can take moral decisions, we can say it is an ethical machine. A thing that is going to come very soon is a smart car, a driverless car. Now, a classical problem is a driverless car going through a road and there is a passenger here, old lady, and there's a child who has come in front of the car. And the car is programmed in some way. Now, what will it do? How should it be programmed? It can swerve and hit a tree, thereby the lady may die. But if it hits a child, the child may die. What should be done? Who decides? Again, who is programming it? If there be machine learning, you give more data to save the child or kill the child, then the child will be killed. If you give more data to swerve and hit the tree, then it will hit the tree. Will it take into account for that particular period what is needed because of different situations? We may not follow the same set of rules and we may like to violate. That is where the morality is coming into picture. That is where, in my view, I said I won't give an answer, that still AI has got a long way to go. I'll conclude with this. We are facing a challenge today that now we can make machines which will create themselves. So now an AI machine or a robot will be made by another robot. That is called the technological singularity. And this danger has been acknowledged by Elon Musk and Bill Gates. Both of them have said that days are coming when it can happen. Now, at that time, but we are not making those robots. The robots are making those robots. Should we allow them? That's another question, political or different questions. I'm not going to that. But if a robot makes a robot, and can that robot be your friend? Can you think of when you are in a hospital, God forbid, there is no one around you, a robot walks in and puts his or her hand, its hand on your forehead. Will it comfort you? There lies the difference between a human being. If it could be an unknown person who comes and puts his or her hand on your forehead, you'll feel more comforted because you are human beings. So there lies some difference. I am not sure whether because of this singularity, it can reach that. I'll just conclude with two things. We often talk, we know there are two things. One is bhava and rasa. Rosh and bhav. All right? We have got different emotions. And we express those emotions to different rasas. In our Shastra, we have got navaras, right? There are different ways of expressing and different bhavas that comes to our mind. Maybe the same situation can lead to different bhavas. Certainly, I think that is till today. I am not a foreteller, but till today, we can put a delimiter here. Hey, robot, you cannot do this. Possibly, that is true. There, I think human society will survive. AI society will be assisting us, and then we can live jointly together. But whether AI will replace human, it can behave like humans, but it will not be humans. Thank you very much. I've taken, I think, a little long, right? Sorry. Thank you.
Presentation.
Yeah. I'll just stop the sharing. I've stopped the sharing, right? It's not shared. Yeah.
So thank you, Professor Basu, for the excellent presentation and making it so intelligent for unintelligent people like human beings. So as you began by saying what is intelligence itself is not defined properly. So how intelligent is intelligent people, and the human emotions, how they are captured, is a very, very complex mechanism. And the human being is such a complex mechanism. One part of it is mechanical. And in Vedanta, we say Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, the 5-layered human personality. The Annamaya is a purely material thing which can be programmed. It is Prakriti which is programmed and which can be manipulated. But the Pranamaya, which is life, which is more complicated, even there people say it can be reasonably programmed if you know the behavioral patterns, etc. And the Manomaya is still more complex, which is the mind, which is most difficult to manipulate. You have the conscious, subconscious, unconscious, superconscious, all kinds of people are still struggling with the mind. And beyond the mind, Vedanta says there is Vijnanamaya, in which the higher intuitive intelligence, where the human beings have an intuitive understanding of certain things without the intervention of the logical mind.
Yes.
So whether the human brain and the human mind thinks according to algorithm is a
We
big
do not think logically, many times.
It has not been solved. And you know the famous Gödel's theorem, which
Yeah.
completely smashed the smithereens, the idea of Bertrand Russell and Whitehead, who built up the mathematical logic with so much of precision. So there are several things in the world which are true, but are not provable or disprovable. You say God exists. Can you prove this? Then I say, can you disprove it? When you can't disprove it, I can't prove it, let us be friends. So there are certain such complex things in the world which is beyond the mind and the intuition. And the Vedanta went as far as to say beyond the intuition also there is a realm called the Anandamaya, which is super conscious mind, from which so much of wisdom flows through the conscious and ultimately comes to society. When Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly used to go into Samadhi, what he called Samadhi, and they were all flabbergasted. What kind of thing is this? And the ultimate confirmatory test of a dead man, the doctors say, is to they put the finger on the eyeball and then scratch it vigorously. If there's absolutely no movement, they declare he is dead. Even now, I think I hear they do it. They did it to Ramakrishna. Absolutely, there was no reaction. He said, we declare him dead. After some time, he came back as a normal person. So they said, and then Vivekananda was challenged in the West. Can you go into Samadhi? We will test you. What little tests were available in those days, what scientific tests, they tested him and said, you are living beyond science. So there are so many things that Shakespeare's famous quotation, there are so many things for Asia which are not known by your philosophy. So there's so many hundreds of complex things, but it's very interesting that human mind can think of intelligence itself. Swami Vivekananda said, the beauty of the human mind is that human mind can analyze the human mind itself. The mind is a self-reflexive phenomenon, and then the mind itself can be the object of study of the human mind. So we have very, very interesting talk today, and then stimulating, and then it triggers so many ideas, and your pictures, the way you presented was beyond compare, and for the common man. So we are so happy, and then thank you heartily for your rendering. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Ultimately, all the machines that we make should bring Shanti, peace, and joy